interplay is between these forces. We have already talked about change any of the factors, you will have change in the GFR. KF, a very important thing, okay? Now KF, yesterday actually we talked about KF. Any disease which reduces the KF will definitely decrease the GFR. Now KF can be reduced in two different ways. What are these two different ways? Permeability. Some diseases only target the permeability mainly, and some diseases target the surface area. All right? For example, a person comes with a damaged kidney and you need a certain operation, and you think after operation, during the operation, that the kidney has to be removed, it's completely damaged. So you do the nephrectomy and remove one kidney. After removing one kidney, what will happen to the KF? Decrease to what extent? Half. You have removed one kidney actually, isn't it? So the filtration coefficient, so don't expect the GFR to be normal. The remaining one kidney will try to compensate. It will try to increase its function, but it cannot have the same previous value. You know that, all right? So KF can be decreased by different diseases or different situations. If you are only changing the thickness of the basement membrane by causing some fibrosis and keeping the same number of capillaries, what are you affecting actually? It's permeability, right? So you can change the permeability. Many chronic disorders, they have a significant impact. Can you name any chronic disease which you find very commonly in our population, in our families? Chronic, just few chronic diseases. Can you name them? Hypertension. Now, is there any effect of hypertension on the kidney? Yes, it does. All the time when the pressure is very high in the glomerular capillaries, it will try to bring a change, degenerative change in the wall of the filtration membrane. So this degeneration will cause change in the surface area. First it will affect the permeability, and later many of the capillaries will be destroyed and they are lost. Okay? So the KF will change with hypertension, and a time comes in the life of a hypertensive person when he goes into a state of kidney failure. Okay? So elevated blood pressure, chronic hypertension, uncontrolled, and you are not taking care of it, eventually turns into a case of renal failure. So the KF decreases with hypertension. This is one disease. Any other? Just coming back, yeah. Hypertension initially affect, because hypertension brings a degeneration. Okay, degeneration has a reaction of fibrosis also, and that tries to change the permeability. But in the course of time, the number of capillaries is also decreased because many of the degenerated capillaries are destroyed and they are lost also. So both surface area and permeability is affected, initiated by the permeability changes, but later a gross degeneration of the capillaries also. Okay, so you will have both actually. You said diabetes mellitus also? Someone of you? Okay. Do you think diabetes can affect? Well, diabetes is it a macrovascular disease or a microvascular disease? What do you think? You have not done endocrinology, okay, but I'm just asking your opinion, any general thing. Will it affect the larger blood vessels or the minute blood vessels? Minute. So it's a microvascular change coming in diabetes. The arterioles, metarterioles, capillaries, they are easily degenerated. Again, diabetes go into a state of renal failure if you don't take care, and first it will affect permeability and then the surface area. Both are actually affected in diabetes. Okay? Sometimes permeability is initially increased in diabetes and proteins start passing in urine. Okay? But then later fibrotic reactions and degenerative changes occur, and then you have loss of capillaries, gross decrease in the number of capillaries also. Anyway, these are some diseases. So diseases generally affect chronic diseases, not the acute. In acute situation, you're removing the kidney, all right? And many inflammatory disorders, they will also affect. Okay? Glomerulonephritis initially blocks the pores and permeability changes. Later, if there is inflammatory damage and process goes chronic, the fibrosis occurs, and that will cause change in the number of functional capillaries also. Okay? All right, okay. Now let's have a look. Look at this diagram. I want you to analyze this diagram from efferent arteriole to glomerulus, from afferent to glomerulus, and from glomerulus to efferent. Look at the direction of the arrows and see what changes do you observe in this diagram. Okay, see it yourself. We'll have a talk. Look at this diagram. What is happening as you are passing from afferent arteriole to the efferent arteriole? Look at the diagram, please. Please keep it in sight. Yeah. Oncotic pressure. What kind of change do you expect or do you see in the oncotic pressure? What is the oncotic pressure at the beginning of the journey when you are entering the afferent arteriole from it was 28, like the normal blood, everywhere it's 28. But actually we have learned a value of 32. It's strange, it's not written here, isn't it? Okay. Now, as the fluid, the blood is passing from the glomerulus and going to the efferent arteriole, by the time it reaches the efferent arteriole, what kind of change do you see? It reaches what value? And why? Because filtration, water has gone and the fluid has gone. If the fluid has gone and the proteins are still maujood, they are there, what will happen to the concentration of the proteins? Increase. And if the protein concentration increases, what will happen to the pressure of the proteins? Very simple. Because of the loss of fluid, because of the filtration, you will have an increase in the pressure in the efferent arterioles. Is it understandable? Okay. Now, on one end you have 28, on other end you see 36, but you don't see the value which we discussed. Why? It's in the middle. You are taking the average value from 28 and 36. If you take the central value or the average value, add 2 and divide by 2, what value will you get? So in the middle of the glomerulus, the average value is about takriban 32. 28 is the initial value, 36 is the final value, so the middle value will be 32. We discussed the value which is 32. Is it clear? Okay, great. All right, look at this one. Now we are quickly talking about the factors which are influencing the glomerular capillary oncotic pressure. Now oncotic pressure, we are focusing the plasma proteins first of all right? Just focus the plasma proteins. Now be careful, you are changing the plasma proteins now. If you are increasing the concentration of plasma proteins, you know what will happen to filtration? Decrease or increase? Decrease, because the force of plasma proteins will increase. Any reason, filtration will decrease. Okay? All right. Okay. Second thing, if you have a low amount or the low concentration of the plasma proteins reaching the glomerulus, what change will it have on the GFR? The GFR will increase. So these two simple facts should be kept in mind. Now, well, I suffer from severe, I ate something last night and in the morning when I woke up, okay, I was feeling like nauseating, okay, and before coming to the college, okay, I threw up 3 or 4 times. I had several episodes of vomiting, okay. After about 2 hours, I also started feeling abdominal pain and I passed about 3 or 4 liquid stools and I had diarrhea also. So I began with vomiting and I finished with the diarrhea and I had 5, 6, 7 episodes of vomiting and diarrhea and I was feeling like drained totally. I was lying on the bed. Okay, what state am I in now? Dehydration. If I'm in dehydration, my water from the body has been lost. Okay, what will happen? Have I lost proteins also? No, just water. So if I have lost water in the dehydration, what is the situation of plasma proteins now? Increased or decreased? In concentration, yes, right? Not in the amount. Amount is same, but the concentration is increased, isn't it? Well, the concentration is increased, it means the increased concentration is now passing through my kidneys, isn't it? What will happen to my GFR? So if I have had 4 or 5 episodes of vomiting and then diarrhea also, will I pass a normal amount of urine? No. Why? Because my GFR is low. This is the simple reason. So dehydration is a state in which persons don't pass urine really because their water has been lost. You know that. Okay? Why? The GFR is decreased. Now you go for the reason, why would GFR be decreased in dehydration? It's very simple.
Yes.
Okay? Class. Okay? Change in the oncotic pressure. All right. Now, one morning, okay, it's Ramadan. Okay? It's the first Ramadan. Okay? And I'm very excited and ready for. Okay? So the same example. And now I'm reversing it. Okay? At the time, Qabla al-Fajr, obviously I'm eating and drinking, okay? But since it's first Ramadan and I'm not in habit of like keeping fasting for a long time, okay? So I have a little psychological feeling at the back of mind also that oh, maybe it's a hot day actually and I should have some reserve of water. I should drink water, isn't it? Okay? So I intentionally, okay, drink extra amount of water. Even though I don't feel like drinking water, it's full. Okay, but still 1 or 2 glasses, let's keep 2 more glasses inside and reserve it. Okay, so I drink an extra amount of water. Okay, I'm waiting for azan and salah. Okay, but still I have time, 30 seconds, 1 minute, 2 minutes. Okay, so let's have a few more glasses. So I overtly drink water, 2 or 3 glasses, and I'm not able to move really. It's like this. Okay, but still, okay, I feel satisfied that I have kept a reserve of water for the day long which is coming. Will it help me really? No, you know that, okay? As you drink more and more water, okay, get ready for a change in your hydration status. All this water will be absorbed in 1 and 1.5 hours into your blood. As it goes into your blood, your plasma volume will increase. As your plasma volume increases, what will happen to your protein concentration? For that little time, protein concentration will drop. Diluted plasma, isn't it? If the plasma is diluted and protein concentration and pressure is decreased, what will happen to the GFR? All right, okay. So between like 5 o'clock and 7 o'clock, okay, now you will go to the bathroom 2 times or 3 times to pass urine, a gush of urine, a large amount of urine, and all that 3 glasses you kept inside for the day, okay, they are just out in the receptacle, okay. So you can't take care of that water. So that water is gone, and you know the process why. So it doesn't really matter if you overdrink. Okay? The body has the mechanism of changing the situation, and all the extra water you will get rid of like this. Okay? Provided you have a regulatory system, normal kidneys. Okay? So that change is overhydration. So overhydration will cause a change in the GFR. Why? You know the reason again. Okay? Right. Okay. Capillary pressure. Now we are talking about the most important force which is easily changed. This is the blood pressure in the capillaries. Okay? Now the blood pressure in the capillaries can be affected by many things. Right? If you have, now think about afferent arteriole, efferent arteriole and the glomerulus. Keep these 3 things in your mind as you are thinking about the changes. Okay? Now you have done circulation. If you decrease the size of the afferent arteriole, vasoconstriction or constriction of the afferent arteriole, what change do you expect in the glomerular capillary pressure? Same, increase or decrease? What do you think? Decreased. Because if you are constricting the afferent arterioles, many afferent, not one really, you're generally all afferent arterioles by any hormone, any process, what happens? The resistance is increasing, and that resistance will kill the pressure which is موجود. Okay, so that pressure by the time it goes into the glomerular capillaries will be decreased. 2 reasons: the resistance decreases the pressure, and also the flow. When the flow is decreased, definitely the volume is less. When the less volume is reaching, it will have less pressure also, isn't it? So the glomerular capillary pressure decreases. If it decreases, what will happen to the GFR? Decrease GFR. Okay. If the GFR decreases, all right, what will happen to the urine formation?
Decrease.
Okay? Yeah. So a person in circulatory shock, what is the compensatory response in the body? What do you think? No. All of a sudden, a person, okay, develops a hemorrhagic shock, accident. The blood is being lost very quickly. Vasoconstriction. Due to what? Why? What is the reason? What is bringing this vasoconstriction? Hormones. Which hormone? No. Quickly response, okay? In like a minute or in seconds, your response begins. Ischemia is doing what? So it is activating a system in the body. Which system? Nerves. Which nerves? Sympathetic system simply. And sympathetic hormones which are coming. The nerves and hormones. Yes, you're right. Okay. So, Shadid sympathetic response is coming. Okay. Sympathetic stimulation. What will happen to the blood vessels of the body? Especially arterioles and small vessels constriction in the kidney. Do you need urine formation at that time? No. So, kidneys are really constricted, their vessels. What will happen to the blood flow to the kidneys? Almost gone down, and sometimes so low that the kidneys can go into failure also. You know that, ischemia and failure. So anyway, the blood flow decreases. When the blood flow decreases, what will happen to the glomerular filtration at that time? Almost zero really at that time, because it's not needed. It's not needed at all. You have to save the person's life. Don't send the blood to the kidney. It is not needed at that time. So that's why blood goes into other areas to maintain the circulation and the pressure. Anyway, so vasoconstriction will cause a decrease in the GFR if there is afferent arteriolar constriction. Okay. If you dilate the afferent arterioles by some local hormones or by some hormones, by any mechanism, what will happen to the GFR? Because the blood flow is increasing, the pressure will also change. GFR should increase. Very simple really, very, very simple. Go to the other end. Efferent arteriole now. Okay, not the afferent arteriole, please. Efferent arteriole, Shabab. All of you. Please, keep it inside. If you are constricting the efferent arteriole, just think, what will happen? Now efferent, not the afferent, efferent. Okay? The blood is coming in the afferent, the blood is coming into the glomerulus. You are working on the efferent. Now what will happen? First of all, what will happen? Glomerular capillary pressure will increase, decrease or same? Increase, because you are trying to obstruct the blood flow and the blood is coming in that region. So volume and the pressure will increase initially, definitely. If it increases, what will happen to the GFR? Increase. Simple thing. Okay. Now, for slight constriction, it's okay. You are constricting and you are also taking the blood away. So you are keeping the pressure, back pressure on the glomerulus, and your GFR will remain high. Okay, mild to moderate. But if you have severe constriction, okay, which is almost closed or taqriban closed, in that case, you are not letting the blood to pass easily. Initially, what will happen? The GFR will increase. But after some time, what will happen? Why?
Because they are protein.
Yeah, okay, because the problem is you are increasing the GFR and you are increasing the filtration. But after filtration, think about the situation of the proteins. They will increase. And are these proteins really passing forward? No, because you have closed the efferent arteriole. With very difficult condition, the proteins will pass. So generally the proteins in the area of glomerulus will increase. If the protein force is increasing in the glomerular area, imagine what will happen to the GFR? It will try. So it's a biphasic response. Awwal there is an increase in GFR, then it gets back to taqriban normal value and slightly decreases. You know the reason why it was increased? You know the reason why it is coming to a decreased value. Increase and then decrease. Did you get that? So there is a difference between slight constriction or moderate constriction and shadid constriction. Okay? If slight constriction, good, GFR will remain high. If very tight constriction, the GFR will show a double response. First it will, and then it has to drop. Okay? If you dilate the efferent arteriole, Shabab, now what will happen? Well, the GFR will have a change, because if you are decreasing the resistance, then you are not maintaining the back pressure. If you are not maintaining the back pressure, then there will be a slight fall in the glomerular capillary pressure, and that may bring a little change in the GFR. So slight decrease. Very simple. Okay? You keep on thinking only. Okay? You don't have to memorize all these things. It's very simple. This diagram is showing you This RA is the afferent arteriolar resistance. Okay? If there is vasoconstriction, what will happen to the resistance? Right? So you can see the arrow direction, right? Okay. The blood flow is decreasing because you are constricting the afferent arteriole. All right? What will happen to your filtration? The glomerular pressure definitely decreases and the GFR is decreased. Okay? So obviously the blood flow is decreasing, the pressure is decreasing, so GFR will definitely drop. Okay. Efferent. If you are constricting the efferent, we just talked about, there will be a double response. Expect a double response if you are having a strong constriction, and expect an increase only if you are having slight constriction. Okay? So there are differences between the degree of constriction. This is it. It's a biphasic effect. I hope you understand the meaning of the biphasic effect. Double effect. Awwal increase and then decrease in the GFR. Okay. Renal blood flow is a very special blood flow. GFR and renal blood flow, inshallah, we'll see in the next lecture. They are auto-regulated. They are regulated in a very special manner. Kidneys have their own mechanisms inside. If the renal blood flow is decreasing or increasing, the kidneys make some changes inside and they try to regulate the blood flow. Okay? So renal blood flow is auto-regulated. By auto-regulation means self-regulation. Okay? You don't need the hormones from outside, you don't need the nerves from outside, you don't need some special things from outside. Kidneys have their own mechanisms, their own devices, their own tools to control their renal blood flow. To some extent, they can easily monitor, they can easily adjust. Okay? And we'll talk about those mechanisms. Well, renal vascular resistance. Resistance, you know, is the degree of constriction which is present in the blood vessel. It is resistance. Okay? You have done it. I don't know how good you know about the renal architecture or the blood vessel distribution. Have you done this distribution in anatomy? Renal blood supply, the whole thing? Anatomy lecture have they given you?
Small amount of information.
Okay. Now, let's get a quick discussion, very short but very quick, because I don't have a diagram, but with our discussion we'll develop an image in our mind that what kind of blood flow is coming and what is the situation. Kidneys, cortex and medulla, right? You know. Medulla is the loose area, okay, with the pelvis and the calyces and the blood vessels and the nerves arranged there in this area. And the cortex is a tight, compact zone, outer zone, okay, in which the major parts of nephrons are arranged, okay. Well, if you see the cortex, you will see that it is divided into different areas, and you call these areas as the renal pyramids. Have you seen the structure of the pyramids? Yes. All right. Okay. When the blood comes into the renal artery, you know the renal artery is supplying the kidneys and the renal vein is draining the blood. You can see these structures at the hilum of the kidney. All right. 3 structures: vein, artery and the ureter. In front it is vein, behind that it's artery, and posteriorly at the back you have the pelvis of the ureter which is coming. VAN, VAU actually, vein, artery and the ureter, like this. Anyway, the blood is coming into the kidneys by the renal artery. The renal artery are dividing into the segmental arteries. They divide into some segmental arteries. The segmental arteries will divide into the lobar arteries because there are lobes present inside the kidney. Okay? So from renal to segmental, from segmental to lobar arteries. Lobar arteries, they divide like a T. At the junction of cortex and medulla, each lobar artery is dividing like a T junction, T. And these T arteries are called the arcuate arteries. What do you call them? Arcuate. So from renal to segmental, from segmental to lobar arteries, okay? interlobar arteries, and these are dividing into the arcuate arteries. The arcuate arteries now will give some straight arteries, and these arteries in the cortex are called the interlobular arteries, because lobes are divided into lobules. So they are running between the lobules. Now again, renal artery to segmental arteries, and yeah, okay, it's the lobar arteries or the interlobar arteries, and they are dividing into arcuate arteries. Arcuate are giving the interlobular arteries, and from each interlobular arteries, the side branches are called the afferent arterioles. Now you reach, because we have talked about afferent arteriole, we did not know about the previous connection, how these afferent arterioles are receiving the blood. Now you have traced the whole pathway. From the renal artery, you are taking the blood into segmental, into the interlobular, into the arcuate, into the interlobular. Awal was interlobar actually, I was wrong. And finally into the afferent arterioles. After afferent arterioles, you have glomerulus. After glomerulus, you have efferent. After efferent, you have, hold on. No, it's not vein coming directly. You know very special capillary systems present in the kidney. We talked about that. Come on. Okay, for the cortical nephrons and for the juxtamedullary nephrons. Vasa recta for the juxtamedullary nephrons. But what capillary network is present for the cortical? Peritubular, right? Peritubular capillaries. After that, you will have the same. The venules are formed. Okay? Yeah. And interlobular veins will be formed. From interlobular veins, you will have the opposite now. Arcuate veins. Arcuate veins will join to form the interlobar veins. Interlobar veins will join to form the segmental veins. Segmental veins will join to form, and it's out. Okay? So this is the whole circuitry of the blood supply. You got it? Okay. Now look at the slide very quickly and tell me, in the kidneys, now you know about the arteries and veins, their names also. Where do you find the significant resistance? Which vessels have the highest resistance inside the kidney? Can you just pick it? Interlobular, small, okay, and afferent and efferent. All right, okay. So it means you are talking about the smallest level. The interlobular, and then afferent, and then efferent. These three areas are actually giving you the resistance. So changes in these three areas are significant. If you change, vasodilate or constrict the interlobular or afferent or efferent, you will have a significant change in the GFR. Got it? So the best changes in the resistance, the significant changes are seen in some special areas, and we have picked those areas. These are small interlobular arteries, afferent arterioles, and okay, you got it? Okay. So have you developed a kind of a picture in your mind that how the blood circulates through the kidney? Not yet? Is it clear? Yes. From the renal artery to the renal vein, what is the connection? Okay. I'm sorry I don't have any diagram for that, because I thought you have done it in the anatomy also. All right. Okay. The renal vascular resistance, you know now the vascular resistance, it is definitely controlled by some factors. You know the small arteries or the vessels, they are supplied by the sympathetic nerves also. Do you remember? Okay. So definitely the sympathetic system is controlling. This is one thing. Some local hormones or some general hormones, vasoconstrictor hormones, they will also affect which regions of the kidney significantly? 3 regions. What are these 3 regions? Now you know. If I ask you that there is a vasoconstrictor hormone acting on the kidney, and if I ask you what special areas of the renal circulation it will affect, you will come up with 3 areas, and you will focus afferent and efferent arterioles and the interlobular arteries. Keep it in mind, okay? All right. So local mechanisms, local vasoconstrictors, hormones coming from outside into the kidney, or the nerves, the sympathetic system, they all affect and they can change the resistance. All right? So if local vasodilators are produced, what will happen to the resistance? Vasodilators decrease. All right. Okay? If the resistance of the afferent is mainly affected, what will happen to the GFR in that condition? Vasodilators are there and they are affecting the afferent arterioles. Vasodilators are affecting afferent arterioles. Now what will happen to the GFR? Okay, thank you very much. Great. All right. Bowman's capsular pressure is another very, very interesting area. Now, look at the Bowman's capsular pressure. Okay. If you increase the pressure of the Bowman's capsule, what will happen to your filtration process? You know that very clearly. Okay. But it's not easy to increase the pressure individually in each nephron. Okay.